Welcome, everybody, to another Wine and Comics pairing show. We are live, and let's play the opening. All right, everybody, we are here for the grand finale, the sixth and final Hospice live stream, and wrapping us up, bringing us into home is David Byrne with Hospice Skin Deep. Welcome to the Wine and Comics pairing show, David.
Welcome, David.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so David I'm familiar with him through Scout Comics and Stake, the comic that he does via that. I know he also has a comic called Canceled that he is currently doing through Kickstarter, and the second issue of Canceled has just recently wrapped, or is that actually still live as well right now?
That one actually just finished. I don't usually like going live on a campaign without fulfilling the previous one, but as you've talked to Travis and everyone else, we had this planned for over a year, and I was like, I can't push it, and I really need to get canceled out. So
Gotcha. So I know they were kind of neck to neck for a little while, but I knew Canceled ended first, so that is over. But obviously, if anyone sees the Canceled Kickstarter, reach out to David. I'm sure he will be gracious in getting you a copy one way or the other. You can give him money. I'm sure he has.
Yeah, there's still a pre-order store if you just go to canceledcomic.com.
Oh,
so
great.
Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. And then today but before we actually get to the hospice, and for anyone who is joining us for the first time, hospice is and I'm sure you've probably heard this before, but just in case, if you are that random stray new person coming in, hospice is a shared universe. It is 6 standalone one-shot comics, each with their own Kickstarter, all live and happening right now. All 6 are live as of this week. And the first 2 are wrapping up at the end of this week, early next week, like Monday, Tuesday. So you're on the final couple days for that. So if you want all 6, get in on it right now.
That's right.
And this is they share the same universe in the sense that the Rising Suns hospices are hospice. There's many of them. It's kind of like a franchise, kind of like different facilities. Each writer kind of gets to do their own spin on the concept, and the concept is a hospice that helps people birth a demon. People go there when they have a demon inside of them, and the hospice helps them to get it out, whether they like it or not, depending on the story. So today we are going to talk about David's hospice one-shot. But first, I want to know David's backstory, because I actually don't know David's backstory. I know about your comics, but you as a creator, how did you get into all of this? Why did you choose to do comics? And what brought you to hospice?
All right. Well, that's a long story to get all the way to hospice. But no, really, I've always been a writer. I started writing I actually did my first thing that I would consider substantial was in 4th grade. I actually wrote a comic.
Nice.
Then I didn't write another comic until 2017. So
wow,
go figure. But no, in high school, I did poetry, short stories. Yeah. I wanted to be a screenwriter. I probably wrote 15 feature-length screenplays. As you know, if you're in teaching in the entertainment industry, you know how hard it is to break in, especially as a screenwriter, especially if you're not in Los Angeles or New York.
Yep.
So
very true. Very true.
Yep.
I had the education in filmmaking, but when I finally got my degree, it was actually in entertainment business, because I figured I needed to learn that side, which I've used a ton for my knowledge in the comic world. And I don't let people take advantage of me because I actually understand contract law.
Right.
Nice.
Right.
So it helps. But after that, was going to use that education to make my own movie. I learned budgeting. I learned, about working with unions. I had it all, but then I did the budget on the movie, and even with no stars, I was looking at several $1 million, and I was like, this could be a problem. So I actually ended up turning that into a novel, which, I sold actually well over 1,000 copies, which for a book, for someone who's got no following, does a book.
Yeah.
That I was actually very proud of that. And my next story that I had in my head, I'm like, well, it actually fits better as a comic. I always loved comics. I collect comics. I have, I used to own a comic shop. So
right.
Then I actually you read comics, you don't necessarily know how to write them. So I read Scott McCloud's book, Bendis's book. I downloaded a bunch of scripts, looked at them, and I was like, all right, there is no format. So I learned very quickly. And what I always tell writers, you're not speaking to the audience when you write a script, you're speaking to your artist. So you just have to write your script so your artist understands it.
That's right.
And so I wrote the first one was The Couch, which was about a down and out therapist who becomes a psychiatrist to superheroes. So I got I got to cut my teeth on 4 issues of that. Learned working with an artist. He actually happened to do the letters and coloring. So it was all in-house.
Yeah.
It helped me get into the convention circuit. So I started doing cons, meeting people. By the time I brought Steak out, I actually had a small audience. And then from there, I parlayed that into a deal with Scout for Steak. And I started working with Scout. In a matter of a year or so, I went from helping design books to being the co-publisher. So it was kind of like, I mean, when I think back about it and when it's happening, we're like, because Charlie Stickney and I, we were the co-publishers, we're like, this, we kind of rose really fast. And we recognized that, but we appreciated it, and we worked hard for them for a couple of years, and then it was time to spend more time on our own stuff because I was doing so much for them. I was not producing comics.
When you guys both did, just from my POV, because I had been kind of absent. I was a big comic fan and a big comic person for many, many, many years, sort of fell deeper into the film and TV world and walked away from comics for a while. Even as a fan, I was only kind of paying vague attention to it. And then I came back right around the time you and Charlie were both co-publishers at Scout during those years. And just seeing how much good the two of you did in being vocal and helpful, even while at Scout, even while I'm sure limited in certain ways because of your positions there, that I think that was great for everybody that the two of you fell into those positions as you did. So want to give you kudos.
We had a great time working with each other for 2 years. We still talk every day. So
oh wow, that's great.
Made a great friend out of that.
That's good.
Yeah, I imagine. And so from Scout. You then, Scout, not Steak. Scout, you then, were you doing Steak while you were co-publisher at Scout? Did that begin there? Or is that something that was part of your, once you stepped away, you started focusing more on Steak? Or like, where's the timeline on all of that?
I'm trying to think.
Trying to remember.
When it came out, it came out right before or the following year after we were co-publishers, but the deal had already been signed.
Right.
You
had the relationship, so
yes, yeah. We did the 6 issues through Scout. I've done 3. The first issue is actually interesting story. Kickstarted with a completely different interior artist. So it's one of those things where it took so long to get the first issue done, it became untenable. And my plan was to do 6-issue arcs with one artist and do spin-offs between those 6-issue arcs so that the series could continue to go. I hired Francesca, who did all of the art for Steak that you've seen, to do the one-shot. She finished it quicker than the original issue was done, the first issue. And I was talking to her about, I was like, I'm going to have to hire a new artist. And she's like, well, I'll do the whole thing. So I was like, well, you know what? We only have 1 issue. We plan on going for a long time. You could just redraw number 1. So we have continuity. So now, that was, I think 2020 is when it came out initially. So that was the first Kickstarter. So the series hit the direct market in 21. And since then she's done 9 issues, 225 pages of Steak. And we're going to do we have the trade that, you can get through basically everywhere because of Scout's Simon & Schuster deal. And then we'll do a trade for the spinoff, which is called Steak Presents Jessamy.
I saw that cover.
Yep. So we'll do the trade for that either later this year or right at the beginning of next year. And then what everybody's been waiting for and keeps bugging me about is Steak Volume 2 will start in early 2024. So
all right.
She has a script. When she finishes some other obligations, I think she's going to start drawing.
Awesome. So that is what's on the horizon.
Well, hopefully we get you back when that hits.
100%. And so with Hospice, how did you, from your POV, how did this all come about? Why? How did you fall into it? And why did you like? What made you want to do it? What made you say yes?
So obviously, if Travis is listening, I hope he turns it off because we don't want to inflate his ego anymore. But,
Anymore, right?
but no, I've been friends with Travis for most of my creator journey. I think I only had one issue of the couch out when we met, but I was like, we met at a show, and I was it was my local show, so we were in the lobby of an outbuilding for the show. That's where they stationed us, and I had one sale and he had none, and he actually was like jealous. He's like, oh man, this guy. And then he found out that it was my local show, so it was just someone who knew me, and he was like not as jealous. But we've been friends since then, and that was like almost, it was either 4 or 5 years ago. And when he started doing the Cthulhu Invade series, he's brought me on for every one. You know, he calls me, we talk all the time. So when he brought this up, he did like a verbal diarrhea at me, and I kind of was like, okay, but I need like more like timelines and things like that, because I kind of procrastinate on things. I always get it done. But if I don't know, if I don't know the timeline, I don't know when I'm gonna fit in my procrastination. Right. So you know, I think you've heard this already from the rest of the group, but obviously, if viewers didn't watch those, this is over probably almost close to a year and a half in the works. So they gave us plenty of notice, and it was summer last year when he said, let's launch in September. And I'm like, I can't launch in 2 months. And he's like, no, next year. And I was like, next year. I could probably do that. 14 months I can probably do. But even so, I'm like, I think I'm the furthest behind in getting it done. But I will have it out by December, like we promised. Because
you'd be surprised.
I don't know. I think you're probably where you're at.
I think you're doing fine. Okay.
I know. I'll hit my deadlines. So the ones I impose on myself. I was
going to say, being privy to
that's me. Self deadlines.
The other creators sending us whatever they actually had that was readable. Yeah. It's like, nope, you're doing fine. You're actually okay. Some of them are further along, possibly on like they have more pages of like pencils and inks or something like that. But it's like, well, but there's no lettering, there's no coloring. We don't have finished pages for you. And at least you sent us a synopsis. So at least we have, full disclosure, guys, when we get to talking about his issue in specific, we only had preview pages in terms of finished comic pages, but he did send us the full summary of the story. So we know what happens. We know how it ends. We know where it goes. Right. And for some of the others, we were like, well, here's the setup. And we've got the first 5 to 10 pages. And after that, if we know, but we're gonna try and comment on it and pair with it. But I wanted you to be able to speak intelligently about it. And right. Even if you don't tell people what the end game is. Right. Exactly. We know. And honestly, it was kind of fun just apparently because that was a specific challenge to pair something and try and get the essence of the comic without knowing. How does it end? Where is it going? Because the ending really can, does that make it bittersweet? Does it make it a happy story? Does it make it an incredibly tragic, horrific story? And the opening gives you just a basic aesthetic. But then where it goes kind of gives you that, okay, what are my feels like ultimately with this story? And not knowing that, it's like, well, let's do the best we can. So that was kind of fun, actually. But we do know the ending to David's story. So we will be able to comment on that. And so for you, Travis says, I've got something. And if it's at all feasible, you're kind of in like Flynn. It's just not even too much of a question.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, when I can tell you a funny story on the first Cthulhu, he said, oh yeah, so I want you to do a story. I was like, all right, here it is. I don't know this. I don't know Oz that well. So if you pick a character for me, I'll do the research and I'll give you a good story.
Gotcha.
He's like, okay, so I'm going to give you Jack Pumpkinhead and you can do 1 to 10 pages. So I did 10 pages. And he's like, you're the only person who did 10 pages. I was like, you told me I had 10 pages. So of course I did that. And he's like, all right, well, I have to pay you for every page. I was like, all right.
Exactly.
but the next one I only did 2 pages and the following one was only 3 pages. So it's like,
oh wow.
Yeah. But I got,
he clawed it all back from you.
But like with those series, if I'm not familiar with it, I tell them, just give me a character, give me whatever you want, and I'll read the rest of what you got, and I'll read up on those characters, and I will give you something solid that hopefully fits with what you're doing.
Right. Awesome. All right. So
this one gave us free reign.
Exactly. And so let's actually talk about Hospice now. Hospice Skin Deep. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can take a look at David's Kickstarter page in specific. All right. So here we are. Hospice Skin Deep, a horror one-shot, not safe for work. And yes, it is definitely not safe for work. We have Trouble.
It depends on where you work.
Follows.
It depends on
where you are. That's true. This is true. Trouble follows exotic dancer Sarah everywhere she goes, but things take a turn when she is targeted by the Rising Sun's Hospice. So this is kind of a cool one because this was the first story, I believe, where the Hospice, well, I guess that's not entirely true, but the targeting, like the Hospice targets this character. There is some of that, like the setup for Frank Martin's one with the cannibal.
Yeah, for Frank's, there's the cannibal element. Yeah,
there's the cannibal, and the Hospice invite, and they kind of invite him in. But I think the difference is in this one, the Hospice is more, I think target is a good word for that, because it's not so much a, hey, come on in, we have something to offer you. And because in Frank's, like the cannibal's like, you're going to feed me. Awesome. I'm in, and it's better than prison. Let's do this. Not knowing what he's getting into, but he happily goes along. And in this one, it's definitely a targeting thing. Now, it's called Skin Deep, and it is about an exotic dancer. So you can see why it might be a little not safe for work. You can see here's the character design of our main character, Sarah. Let's come down, and we can get a few of the pages. Now, this is by artist Freddie. What's his last name there, David?
Bartolays.
Freddie Bartolays. And you've worked with him before.
On
covers. Okay. So this is your first interior work with him.
Correct. I think it's his first ever.
Really?
Oh,
yeah, but if you follow him, the images you see here, he just posts stuff that's in this style like all the time. His covers look nothing like this for me. They're like fully rendered, but like I've loved his work. And when I got to the point where I needed an artist, I was like, I know you haven't done interiors before. Do you have any interest? And I sent him the synopsis like you guys read, and he's like, I would love to do this. He's like, let's do it. And I was like, all right, since you've never done it, I'll walk you through it if you need it. But he took the script. I haven't had to give him any notes. So he's pretty much, my scripts are very detailed. So I think that helps.
Okay.
But I think that comes from writing screenplays.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But
well, I can see here just from the cover versus so this is your fully rendered version. He did the cover here as well, or is this someone else?
That's him.
Okay, perfect. So here's his fully rendered version. And then you can see when he comes to the interiors, he's got this, trying to think like maybe Jay Lee is a good
I can
comparison.
See that.
Yeah, a little bit. There's probably someone better, but my mind is not finding a more suitable comparison quite yet.
But he definitely sets an atmosphere with his.
Yeah, there's a film to war thing happening. There's a real sort of painterly thing happening at the same time. Yep. Yeah, it's cinematic.
You can see here in just the first couple pages how we establish why the Hospice crew would be after her.
Right.
There and you can see here there is, as they're going, as our main character and one other girl are going into this room with these guys, there's one of them and here's the Rising Sun Hospice tattoo on his arm, so we know that they are involved somehow. And then if you come back up here and look at the, I guess it's further down below. There it is. That is the Rising Sun's Hospice logo. Ba-bam. But yeah, that is the art is very evocative. It's incredibly atmospheric. It's got that wonderful, like there's a dirtiness to it. While also having that like it's like dirty and clean in equal measure. It's an interesting combo between the two. But yeah, and then his backgrounds, the details within it, like I don't know if you put all this stuff in the script where, as you said, you're very specific. So, I'm not sure how much of this is him and how much of this was in the OG script, but you can always tell when the backgrounds just have a lot going on in them. They're very fully rendered. Like that is either an artist who's really into it, a script that was very detailed, or both.
Yeah,
It's
a bit of both. The scene where she's dancing, I gave more liberty, but I kind of said this is what should be happening in this scene,
right,
but have fun with it. So
gotcha.
that's where I figured he could definitely add more to it than I could.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we're done, or when you have some time, I highly recommend following him on Facebook or Instagram, so you can see, and you'll get a feel for why I immediately was like, I would love for you to do the interiors on this.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
that hold there, Dave. This image, that's just fantastic. That's poster worthy right there for sure.
And is this is Clark Acliasa? Do you know how to pronounce that, Dave?
I would say Ecclesia, but I'm not sure.
Ecclesia.
He was going by Clark ATK, but he decided to just use his regular name.
Full name. Yeah. You can see why he's like, oh, people can't pronounce it. And it's like, yeah, that's okay. We'll learn. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But yeah, these are the alternate covers.
I think he needs more work, Clark. So
okay.
As far as I know, he hasn't.
I'll put him on the list.
Many comic covers.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So guys, Clark OCLEASA. And if you go take a look at David's Hospice Kickstarter page, you'll be able to find that there. But yeah, I mean the alternate covers.
Yeah.
And I did hear about you that you love to go crazy on the covers.
I do, but I only did 4. I mean, I've
only did 4.
Scaled way back. I like the first couple state campaigns had 10 covers each, and I just find you do end up with diminishing returns at some point. And I've decided, go with more art that like just all of it just completely is bangers versus I always love every cover I get, but some of them are the styles. I tried to vary the styles, and you come to find that certain people don't want styles on a certain type of book. So
100%.
Yep.
All right. So I think that is I'm gonna stop the share there. I think that gets us pretty well covered. All right. So Dallas, do you want to get us started today with the pairings for this?
Can I guess you guys both picked a red?
Yes, 100%.
What tipped you off, right? All right. All right, David. So the world you've sort of you've crafted here. Let's start with color story. That's generally a baseline for me. Between you and the artist, you guys really do a great job of highlighting that character and making sure that focus is sort of pulled to that character with literally every page. And it's done very simply with, that grayscale and a very simple counter note of the red. It is, it's sort of just really effective, simple in some ways, but difficult to execute. So I just want to say that first. The wine I chose. So I actually went back to a vineyard that I am a big fan of. This particular red, it's got an undertone of a couple of other notes of sage and menthol, which go hand in hand with that kind of dark element of your character and the seedy kind of underworld that she operates in. It's blackberry on the nose. The palate is very rich and smooth. There's some vanilla, which hints at the innocence your character had once upon a time. And there's some tobacco underneath this guy. So there's that adult, not safe for work quality that really hits you on this wine. And that, of course, is right in line with what you guys have done in this piece.
Dark room with a lot of guys smoking cigars, kind of a thing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It's a 1-to-1. There's some cloves, some cedar in there. This is a French Malbec. It is technically the Camille a Cahors. This is the sister bottle of 2019, but I'm actually drinking the 2018. It feels a little adult. If that makes sense, it probably doesn't. I've already had 2 glasses. I've already had 2 glasses, so it may not make sense.
The only thing I take from that is, do you mean like it's going to take a while for someone to grow to like it?
No,
like
no.
You've got to be an adult in your wine journey.
It feels sexier than it should be.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig it. I like it, and
Sexy.
I enjoyed 3 glasses as I read this piece. So, yeah.
Dallas is on the East Coast with you, David. So it is not just 1 o'clock like where I am. It is well past 1 o'clock. So I'm glad you joined us, Dallas.
Yeah, you're lucky.
We might not have gotten that much. Well, very similar for my choice with this one. This is far and away the spiciest of the Hospice one-shots that we read. I mean, some of them have a spiciness to them. Definitely Jamie's does up to a certain degree. There was one other. Was it not Michael's? Was it Travis's? No, maybe it was Jamie's predominantly. So Jamie's. I think Jamie was the other spicy one where there was a little something undertones wise. She was one though that we only did get to read 6 pages of. So I'm like, I don't know where it's going. So it could. So we're not 100% certain how spicy or sexy it's going to get. But it definitely had a little bit of that going on. But this one, not only is it an exotic dancer and takes place, at least in the beginning, it is predominantly in the dance club, strip club, what have you. But then where the story goes, which we will not reveal here, it is very much it's very much about hedonism and then a bit of, not quite a revenge tale, but something just adjacent to a revenge tale in where it goes. And that made me want a red, and it was definitely going to be a red, something dark, something with a little bit of bite, but that spiciness factor, I was like, I need the spice factor to go off the charts on this one, because this beats all the others on that factor. So I cracked open a Blaufrankisch.
Wow.
So Blaufrank with a little umlaut there. This is an Austrian. Yeah, this is an Austrian varietal, though this particular bottle comes from a Michigan vineyard. So it's very super northern Michigan, what they call tip of the mitt. So when you're looking at the glove of Michigan, it's like up here somewhere. So it's like just the other side of Upper Peninsula, the UP to Canada and whatnot. So super cold climate where Blaufrankisch really thrives. That's why it grows well in Austria. But in Michigan, it gets even colder and has an even colder climate than Austria in general. Now, Blaufrankisch has a lot of spice factor, a lot of baking spices. It has this one in particular too, because it's from an even colder climate. You have a ginger kind of bite to it. You have like a green pepper kind of bite underneath it all as well. So you've got all that spice factor, that a little bit of bitterness on the back end, and then just a little bit of that fruit. It's a nice, relatively dark red wine, but because it's from such a cold climate and this particular varietal, you usually do get a lot of raspberry. You can get a lot of like brambleberry in general type of flavors. This one, that is all very muted, and all that spice factor just comes through like a motherfucker. So when I cracked this open last night, tried reading it along with the sample pages and the synopsis, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, this is what I'm drinking while I'm reading this.
The spice in this one got me as well. It was what I needed for sure.
Oh,
nice. What vintage is that? What year is that?
This is 2019.
Okay.
Let me double check that. Hold on. Oh, 2020. So not only a few years old. This probably was released about a year ago. It probably was released in 2022. I think I picked this up in Christmas time, 2022, when my parents live up there at the tip of Michigan. So I always pack the suit. I always leave space in my suitcase. And then I'm like, the Christmas presents, you can ship those to me. I'm stuffing this crap into my suitcase and taking it back. So that was my, so spicy, guys. Go for that. If you can find even, we both did reds, but honestly, if you can find a full-bodied white, you know, full-bodied whites tend not to come cheap, so you're not going to be able to get too much of a budget white. But if you get something like a Bourgogne Blanc, or which Bourgogne is a proper, gosh, I've been calling it Bourgogne now for so long, I can't remember what the American term for that is anymore. What do we always call it instead?
Not Burgundy.
Yeah, Burgundy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Burgundy, which is an Americanism. That's not the actual name of the place.
Right.
It's Bourgogne, which apparently once upon a time, because we're Americans, we were like, fuck that. We can't pronounce that. And so we just came up with our own word. And the French were like, fine, we'll call it that too for a little while. But then they came back and were like, no. This is not what this place is called. Anyway, I think a Bourgogne Blanc or Burgundy Blanc would be, it's heavy. It's got that kind of gingery, what are the white pepper notes? White pepper and ginger, things of that nature. You can also do a Semillon, which can come through, and it's usually got a heavy unctuous body. And
I can see a full Gavi with this as well. I can see a full Gavi.
Okay, I think I've only ever had really, really young, fresh, bright Gavis. I'm not sure I've had one with enough body to it, but they come that way.
Particularly because of the tannins. Like
Okay. Good deal. So like a skin contact Gavi, if you can find that, might be perfect. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So David,
what you got, David?
We asked you to bring on a comic that you either have loved for a long time or you are digging right now, and pair it with a beverage of your choice. What you got for us?
So I am a neophyte when it comes to wine. My current girlfriend has gotten me into it a little bit. So
you mean your only girlfriend? The only one that matters.
Current. I didn't say anything other than that. No, but like she's to me right now, it's not I taste this, and this.
Yeah.
I like that, or oh, that's gross.
So, ultimately, that's all it is anyway.
Right. Ultimately, right. You sit there and you can like learn what all these terms are, and like
you can add terms at its base. Right. That's it.
Right. I will say my own story of getting into wine. It was from a long time ago, but I waited tables at a restaurant that had a 200 bottle wine list. And one 3-day weekend, they were so proud of this fucking list that they had a sommelier. And this was back in the 00s before. And this was a restaurant that was in a mall, when malls were still a thing. And so they were going way past what other mall restaurants were doing. And they were so proud of it. They brought all the wait staff in for a 3-day weekend. And for 2 hours in the morning before we opened each day, they made us.
Did you say white staff?
Wait staff.
Okay. Oh, continue.
Wait staff. Okay.
Go on.
Probably that was not far from the truth. It was Northern Virginia, DC area.
Virginia,
it wasn't that bad,
pretty
but
spot on.
It was still, But they brought us in, and over 3 days, we had to taste all 200 wines. And out of all 200, I liked one. And because I wasn't into wine at all, and I was like, oh, it all tasted like alcoholic grape juice, but they were trying to educate us and get us to sell it and whatnot. But I remembered there was just this one where all of a sudden I was like, well, shit, I could see, if I tried, I could see myself liking this. I would have to try. I didn't just like any wine, like right off the bat, but I was like, if I put my mind to it, and then many years later, I decided I wanted to, so I put my mind to it, and here I am today. But it's like after tasting all of those, I was just like, for like literally hundreds of fucking wines, and then one stood out, and I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe I can learn to like this shit.
All right, David, what you got? What you got?
So I'm actually because I'm more simple. I would pair Why the Last Man with Yuenling, which is my beer of choice. Absolutely. So there's a couple reasons for that. Oldest beer in America.
It is.
Mm-hmm. My family is from Pennsylvania, in that area. Ironically, there's even a plant here in Tampa. But it's funny when I go to the West Coast and I ask for that, they've either never heard of it or
that's very true.
Just don't have it. I hear it is moving west. So
good. Well, we just lost Anchor Beer, which was one of the big West Coast, one of the very first craft breweries. So like it's from a San Francisco beer. They claim it was their claim to fame for like decades. It was like the beer of the West that we were so proud of, and they shut it down like months ago. It's like gone now. So that is sad. But yeah, I grew up on the East Coast, so definitely have heard of
I do enjoy Yuenling. from time to time.
Yeah.
Where are you, Dallas?
I'm in New York at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He is based in LA normally.
Gotcha.
So we
Yeah.
we both met here. We are both based here, but he's been on the East Coast for months. So we've just kept on with the show at this point and had everyone just come in. But he's coming back very, very soon. As soon as he sobers up.
I've been in Florida since '95 with stops in LA, New York, Puerto Rico. But everyone, as long as I've been here, has always been like, "Are you sure you're not a Northerner?" I'm like, "Well, I was raised by one, so."
Right.
So yeah. But why is probably one of my, if not my favorite series. I didn't want to say Saga because that's too easy.
Too easy right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you first encounter that? What age were you?
Actually, probably like 7 or 8 years ago. So older.
Okay.
But I'm
So
definitely,
it was a completed series by the time you.
I got to sit down and just read it straight through.
Nice.
Wow.
I watched the first 2 episodes of the show, and I was like, I'm gonna stop in case this gets canceled because I don't want to get invested. And it was.
What did you think of the series? What did you think of those episodes?
It was. I have this problem where if I've read the source material, I can't help but sit there and compare it.
Of course.
And it's actually better for me sometimes to watch the movie and then watch or read the book or the source material because.
I feel like the source material, though, because I agree. Watching the movie or the TV show first is usually the way to enjoy both. But I want to experience it for the first time in its OG format and its OG version of the story, like how it ends, what the beats are. And it's rare. Every once in a while, you will see a movie or TV show where you're like, they're doing for a TV show. Like, I think they're actually fixing some, like, as much as I love the source
it's
material,
rare, but yeah,
they are actually fixing what the only issues I had with the source material. So, like, more power to them. But yeah, I've heard from Why the Last Man. I have not seen the TV show. I have read the comic. I read it back when it was single issues, way the heck back in the day. And wrapped up, like, I was with it while it was at Vertigo all the way to the bitter end. And I heard that they do like, some people have said what their issue was with the comic, the TV show does do better. I don't know if you personally had any issue with the comic, especially if it's one of your all-time favorites.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any issues with it.
So you might be torn on the changes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to me, it was one of those where I was like, oh, this is different. And then I knew about the strife behind the scenes, and I was like, I don't want to get invested. I didn't hate the show or anything. It's just like I was concerned with getting invested because I did kind of feel like it was going to get canceled. So I was like, no.
You know, it's crazy. Around that time, I was working on this post-apocalyptic thing called The Pirates of the LA River. And as part of the research, I went back and checked in with Why the Last Man. Was like, oh, okay, all right. It's got some great moments in it, man, and I can't think of a single problem with it. So
I mean, it's got a great shock ending too. So
I mean, I would say in terms of post-apocalyptic comics, like it and Walking Dead are like the two the bar that you can hold up for modern comics and that. But
is that still on television, by the way?
I did like the 4th spinoff. Like there's a Daryl.
Gail and
right.
Cash Cow.
I mean, the main TV show has finished. They wrapped it. They did properly. But they're not letting the franchise die because that would.
Why would you?
Why would you? I mean, really? But people keep watching it, so why would they?
Oh, absolutely, exactly.
I mean,
the moment they do,
I'll put them on.
I
just anything zombie related. Even if it's terrible, I typically watch it.
Absolutely. Same.
I mean, like
Same. Even if it's bad zombie, I'm watching it. I'm usually more entertained when it's bad.
I mean, like Z Nation was just stupid entertainment, but I watched the whole thing.
But so satisfying because you know
exactly what you should be that was like the super pulpy. Like we are not like The Walking Dead takes itself seriously. We
do not.
And go with Z. Like Z Nation just felt like that, like nonstop rip roaring kind of.
I mean, even for how crazy it was, it goes off the rails.
And to be fair, the production values were pretty good. The production value was pretty damn good on it.
Well, you know, it was it's a John Hyams. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with him personally as a director, but he's one of my favorite movie directors. So when he got that series and it wound up doing really well, I was like, this is awesome. So I'm
Hyams operates the same space for me that Michael Bay does. I'm gonna go see everything. Yep, I'm gonna go see everything Michael Bay does because Michael Bay is the greatest living movie director we have. If you want a spectacle, I stand by it. Film, maybe not. Movie director.
Movie versus film.
Yeah.
All right.
Real thing. Sorry.
I mean, because I guess Cameron would be the biggest movie guy, but his actually have substance.
Exactly.
For the most part.
Ding, ding, ding.
Right.
And there's the line.
So, David, last thing. Actually, so why The Last Man? What are your other predominant influences as a comics creator outside of why? So, obviously, Brian K. Vaughan. He's a big one for you. Are there any? Is there anyone else you can think of off the top of your head that has just been like super influential on your work?
Not really, because I kind of it's weird. My biggest influence, believe it or not, and it has nothing really to do with the genres I write, except for maybe if you've read Steak and The Couch, you can see it. I take more from the cartoons I grew up on, like The Simpsons, Family Guy, Futurama. That's where most of my influence comes. If you've read Steak, you've seen the humor in that on top of it being a vampire book. That's actually more my wheelhouse, but I'm good at plotting too. So everything I do, it starts with the characters, and then I kind of figure out the story from there. Because often, the characters dictate the story. Or I'll have a premise, then the characters will dictate what's actually going to happen within that premise.
Right.
So a lot of that came from, I grew up on Matt Groening. So, and Futurama is literally my favorite thing of anything ever.
Interesting.
Bender being literally my favorite character in the universe.
You know what's curious about that show? I intentionally missed it because I thought the premise was so silly, and I love absurdism. I just love it all. But so many of my friends in my circle were just so gung ho about it. I was like, okay, it can't be that great. And then I watched the first 2 episodes, and then I watched 3 seasons in a night. It was like, okay, all right, I'm on board again.
Yeah, I mean, tell me the episode called Jurassic Park doesn't hit you in the feels. The one where he finds his calcified dog.
It's amazing. That show just does everything right in every episode.
I'm the jury is still out for me on the current season that they just released. I'm gonna have to watch them a couple times, but to decide if I actually like them.
Yeah.
I feel like all those shows, though, because they're still going after all this time. Simpsons is still going too, right? Has
never stopped. It's so weird because I started at Bart Simpson's age, and I am older than Homer now.
Yes. And so the fact,
so true.
Right? And the idea that it's there could be not that great seasons is I fucking hope so. That would actually kill me if they were all that brilliant. I'd be like, what am I doing in life?
Yeah. Well,
that's
so funny. Animation now for other shows seems to happen a lot faster. South Park, they're topical. They're talking about something that happened last week. The Simpsons. Right. Their topical is a year or two.
Is a year ago, exactly.
Right.
Animation, so it takes so long for them.
Right.
I remember they did one about it was somehow they worked in a Michael Jackson scandal in the 90s when Michael Jackson was going through the scandal. It was a full year and a half later. Yep. It was okay, guys.
Gotta be a bit more on the ball. And the next thing for you, David, so we have the next Steak coming in 2024.
Yep.
That's going to begin. Canceled. That is going to continue as well into 2024. Anything else in 2024 in terms of your plans?
I mean, I think that might keep me busy because we're going to do multiple Steaks.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
I'm sure Travis will rope me into some other group project or anthology. If I can
Hospice the next whatever, which may happen.
I mean, I think some of the others might have told you the characters we've ended up creating for these stories, some of us might want to continue with them. I mean, there's definitely potential based on the way my story ends. If I want to go with her, I actually am supposed to have a canceled story coming in Holiday Spirits, so that's this year. That would be on me to get off my butt and actually get it done. I've got an artist on standby.
I was gonna say, isn't that supposed to be the one that's going to be released in like December?
Yeah, is that like next week?
Right, like it's going to be. I think it was solicited already or something. Possibly.
I think it's going live in November. I've got. We're only in September. Okay.
All right.
Well, good luck on that.
It's plotted. Don't worry.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
That's right.
Look for that in the Holiday Spirits annual that comes out every year. Or this is the second one that they've done, I believe, of the Holiday Spirits.
This is maybe the third one, third or fourth.
Okay.
I know you had a summer one as well at some point.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Summer holidays. Yeah, that is a thing as well. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, David. It's been a pleasure having you. Good luck with the rest of your Hospice Kickstarter. It only launched this week, guys, so you have 3 more weeks to get in on it. So check it out, and we will. This is the last live stream of the Hospices. We're done. But we will see you next time, whatever the next live stream is. And thank you so much, David, for being on.
Thanks, Dave.